is Rachel Brooks, and I'm a Professor of Sociology at the University of Surrey. Assumptions are often made within policy as well as by academics that what it means to be a student in Europe today is common across nation states, driven by the increase in cross-border educational mobility through the Erasmus scheme, for example, the development of a European higher education area, and the widespread impact of marketisation and expansion of higher education. Nevertheless, cross-national empirical evidence is rarely cited in support of such assumptions. To address this gap, over the past 5 years, with colleagues, I've been conducting detailed research in 6 European nations, Denmark, England, Germany, Ireland, Poland, and Spain, about how the contemporary higher education student is conceptualised, drawing on perspectives from policy, the media, and higher education staff, as well as students themselves. And this has recently been published in our book, Constructing the Higher Education Student, Perspectives from Across Europe. Our research has revealed some important commonalities across the 6 nations in our study. For example, many students position themselves, to some extent at least, as future workers, even if they rejected the ideas about human capital that typically underpin this construction within policy. Nevertheless, in most cases, they objected to being seen by others as only future workers. Instead, they valued the opportunity to become committed learners, develop personally, and learn how to affect change in the world around them as citizens. Moreover, in contrast to some assumptions in the academic literature, the majority of the students involved in our research saw no contradiction between being focused on securing a job post-graduation and valuing various non-instrumental aspects of their higher education experience. Common across the 6 countries was a sense that they could be marginalised as a result of being seen as in transition or not a fully formed adult, and only a future citizen by policymakers and other social actors. These significant commonalities have, however, to be set against the various differences by nation that our research also revealed. Some national differences can best be explained with reference to relatively long-term historical and cultural trends. For example, within Denmark and Germany, the Humboldtian model of higher education remains influential. In their understanding of themselves as learners, Danish and German students, but not their peers elsewhere, place considerable importance on being able to determine for themselves the pace at which they studied, associated with the Humboldtian idea of Lernfreiheit, the freedom to study, and often drew on the concept of Bildung, which emphasises the key role of education in personal development and self-cultivation, as a means of resisting what they perceive to be dominant economistic policy discourses. National differences can also be explained by different higher education policies implemented in the various countries in our sample and the principles underpinning them. For example, in those nations where all or most students paid fees, England, Ireland, and Spain, students and other social actors were more likely to see students transition to the labour market as a matter of personal investment and benefit than in the other 3 countries. In Denmark, Germany, and Poland, in contrast, greater emphasis was instead typically placed on societal contribution and benefit. Such differences are likely to be related both to the payment of fees or the non-payment of fees, and also to wider social norms about the purpose of higher education. Principles of public good are typically articulated more frequently and explicitly in systems that retained public funding models. Evidence such as this thus highlights that despite homogenising pressures exerted through the Bologna process and the establishment of a European higher education area, as well as more general trends towards massification and marketisation, the ways in which we understand higher education students, and they understand themselves, are also affected by specific national cultures, histories, and policy trajectories. This is significant not just for helping us to understand better the lived experiences of students across Europe, but also for our wider knowledge of processes of Europeanisation, and in some cases, the persistence of significant national norms. We should not assume that young people moving across national borders for all or part of their studies share the same understanding of what it means to be a student today, and ensure that our institutional practices and pedagogies are sensitive to this.